Hello, Internet. Day two of the fest continues. I am Scott Heisel, managing editor of Alternative Press, joined with two members of Real Friends. We have Dan to my immediate right and Kyle just a little farther down. Say hello, gentlemen.
How you
Hello,
doing?
gentlemen.
Yeah, we got everyone in there. That's good. So, Real Friends, this is your first time playing the fest. You just got here a little bit ago. What's the vibe like? What do you feel is going to happen tonight?
I was scared shitless because we're not what I would consider like a fest band because I know they're very punk orientated. But as far as I'm concerned, what I know about punk is just that anything goes. It doesn't really matter. You just show up and everyone's cool. You don't have to worry about fitting into a mold. And I really like that about fest so far because we just finished an acoustic set and there's a decent amount of people there and they didn't give a shit. They were just like, yo, band's playing. That's awesome. And I like that.
Well, let's talk too about this headline tour you're on right now with mixtapes and Pentimento and Forever Came Calling. Is that right? So it's a pretty big deal to have a band that kind of doesn't have a lot in the way of major exposure right now to do a headline tour and have it be as well received as it's being. When you're still technically a DIY independent band, you're doing all these things on your own. What's it like to kind of have? Do you feel like there's pressure involved with that? The fact that you've gotten this far without anybody else's help and maybe more eyes are on you now. Do you think about that at all?
We do, but it's just we're learning to not necessarily look at it as much. I guess if you think about it.
I think it's kind of more one of those things where it's I think the record labels or producers of an album or whatever. I think the days of that mattering are kind of done almost. Like when a kid listens to a band with how accessible bands are on the internet now, I don't think they're oh, what label are they on or who produced their record? Maybe 10 years ago that mattered. But I think now it's just yo, I like the song. Cool. You know what I mean? It's a lot of kids, I don't think, look into that as much. I think it still matters to an extent, but for us, it's just always been, kind of the kids really supporting us. That's been our support. We never had a big financial budget or label or big producer under our belt or anything like that. So I don't really see too much pressure. Kids are coming out, kids are having a good time. The growth is steady, and we're happy for it.
Obviously, you said you don't have a big budget, big producer, that kind of stuff, but every band kind of has their dream list of people they would want to work with. What's some producers that, when you're going to work on the next Real Friends full length, which will be next year, I'm assuming, So when you're working on the next Real Friends full length, who is that bucket list producer that you would kill to pair up with?
Well, we're still going with our same friend. He works out of Northwest Indiana in Crown Point, and we personally have no problem, continuing working with him. It would obviously be nice to be able to work with more well-known people down the road, but right now we're keeping it in-house with who we know. We're definitely looking more into different or bigger name people as far as mixing and mastering goes, that aspect. But as far as recording right now, we're still keeping it in the area and everything. We're not too much worried about our bucket list producers, I guess at this point. Maybe next album, but this one we're keeping it,
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool to the whole thing with us is we wanted to do this record how we've done all the other ones, maybe polish a couple things here and there. I know we were looking into maybe getting it mixed and mastered by someone else, maybe a little further out with that. But as far as right now, I think it's cool to know that the songs you're listening to were created by the 5 people that are in the band. Not that a producer writes songs for people, but I think it's just one of those things that it's kind of cool in a way, to us and the fans as well. It's this is a total product of Real Friends, and that's it. You know what I mean? So we're excited to do that, and I'm excited that we kind of all agreed to move in that direction with moving forward.
That's awesome. So I know, Kyle, you also do on the side, you refer to it as your side project, you do spoken word poetry. Now, is it weird to think of something where you're just talking as a side project of a band? How do you relate the two together? Do you view them as being kind of intertwined a little bit?
No, not really. I kind of started doing that because I had just an excessive amount of lyrical content because I write a majority of the lyrics for the band, so I feel like I had so much stuff on my plate that I would never in my lifetime be able to put it into a band, So, but it's cool. It's just something extra on the side that, kind of gets my heart beating a little bit too. So, but yeah, I enjoy doing that, but I keep it separate from the band. I don't really, it doesn't really intertwine. I think a lot of the subjects maybe are similar, but it's such a different approach. It's just it doesn't have to be catchy or something that really hooks into someone right away. You can get more detailed. So I enjoy doing that.
Now, what was it that kind of brought? I mean, was there something that maybe moved you toward wanting to do spoken word poetry? Like, were you an English major? Like, did you love that in high school? Like, what kind of got your interest peaked in that?
Just being in a band, really. Ever since I was like 14, all the bands I was in, I was always the lyrical like songwriter. So just kind of doing that and just going through life of like, late teens, early 20s kind of life. I feel like there's so much growth, and I feel like I just had a lot of experience from that to just like kind of write about, that maybe wasn't in a song form. Some of my spoken word poems are like 5 minutes long, and it's just me like talking, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's nice to get that off your chest. It doesn't have to be like 4 lines and then 5 lines and then 4 lines. You know what I mean? So it was just growing up, really, just like anyone else, really.
So basically, fuck iambic pentameter, no limericks, get it gone.
Yeah. Like there's probably a lot of grammatical errors in that and stuff, but I don't care. It's just
punk. It's punk.
It's punk. I'm a punk. Yeah.
Punk. That's what Fest's about.
So going back to Real Friends, you're talking about you're going to have an album next year. There's obviously, as I said, a lot more eyeballs on you now than there were, say, 12, 18 months ago. What does that do in your mind for expectations, for pressure? Like, when you're working on these new songs, do you consider what other people are going to think about them, or is it still a very insular thing?
I mean, obviously, like we know that there's going to be all those people listening, but as far as I'm concerned, we want to satisfy ourselves first, and I think if we're able to do that, then we're able to be more honest with our music, and then in turn, hopefully, people can appreciate that honesty because we don't necessarily like to bullshit anyone. So I mean, we're going to worry about what we think first, if whether or not that sounds selfish, and then if people can connect to it and can listen to it and like it, then that's awesome, and if not, whatever. Oh well.
Yeah.
Whatever. There you go. That's all you do.
I think with us, like a big thing with us was like we released an EP called "This Is Honesty," and that was in 2000. Was it 2011? Yeah, it was 2011, and it was like kind of like we were just a band and just a local band, and no one really caught on to it. And then when we did "Everyone That Dragged You Here," which was our second EP, that's when everyone kind of started caring about us, and that was when we did what we wanted to do. It was just like, yo, let's like. No strings attached, let's do what we want to do. So we kind of have that approach still, even after like a lot of growth and like that we're grateful for and all that. I think we're just still doing things the same. There's definitely progression though, like lyrically, musically, there's definitely more progression in it, like kind of more, I know like lyrically, like it's kind of more about like on the road to getting better. A lot of our songs are like very down and like angry, which I think which I enjoy because there's more depth to it. But I think that the newer stuff is kind of like you're not quite there yet, but you're on that road to getting up. So it's cool because it's like kind of like a progression from everything else. Like it makes sense, And then musically, definitely has grown. We're experimenting a lot more with like slower stuff, more aggressive stuff. Kind of like not just one here, trying to find that middle ground.
All right, so Chicago plays a pretty huge role in your band. You're from Chicago, proudly from Chicago, and Chicago's had a great scene for a long time. There's been a lot of classic bands that have come up through the Chicago punk scene. Everyone from, you have, Fall Out Boy, obviously. You have, Naked Raygun from the 80s. You have Alkaline Trio from the 90s. There's always great Chicago punk bands, in different aspects of punk. So now that you guys are kind of starting to break out nationally, who's the next band we should be watching in Chicago? Who would you say we are got to get on the ground floor of?
Okay, there's a band that they're some of our fucking best friends in the world. They're a band called Knuckle Puck, and they're just an awesome band. And I mean, we try our best to kind of let them know what to do if there's anything that they want to come to us with. It's like, oh, here, you're like, yeah, I guess they're our students. They're, like, everything that they do now, I have like a proud dad moment every time because they're putting out all this like awesome music now, and I was lucky enough to have a part on one of their songs. Very grateful for that. Their new EP is amazing. They put out awesome music. They're amazing people, and I mean, I wish nothing but the best for them. They're a fucking awesome band, and look out for Knuckle Puck. That's all I have to say.
It's a solid Bite You Ducks reference too, so I can't complain with that. So before I let you go, I do have one more question I have to ask. Kyle, explain to me the ring on your hands here with your initials, please. I need to know. I need to know more about. Yes, please tell me more.
Good story. Okay, my dad's name is Ken, so we have the same initials, and he always had this ring, and I was always like, oh, I want it. I want that ring, but my hands were always too small. And when I turned 13, it was like that man moment. He was like, here you go. And he gave it to me. And my mom actually bought it for my dad when they were in high school. So it's kind of cool, when they were like 17.
So you've really been wearing it since you were 13 years old?
Yeah, I rarely take it off. Yeah, very rarely. Like I'll take it off like something just like this, but like I've probably worn it like probably most of the time. Like I've left it a couple places like friend's house or something like that, but yeah, I pretty much never take it off. So
the only downside is that if you get in a bar fight, they're going to identify who punched whom because you'll have a backwards KF in someone's forehead.
Kyle doesn't drink, and he's not really an aggressive person.
Punk though.
That's even more punk that you don't drink.
Punker, yeah.
All right, well, that is it for me with the cast of Real Friends here. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time talking to me. I look forward to watching you tonight. And look out. There you go, we're doing high fives. Keep an eye out for Real Friends, man. They're going to have a new album next year. And then after that, look for Knuckle Puck. But first, Real Friends. So
Or Knuckle Puck. Either way, just
Real
in
friends, then Real Friends, then Knuckle Puck. Thank you.
Fuck Knuckle Puck.
all right.